people living in fantasy land.
Part 2.1. I gotta add this though. Y'all think going over there to go get y'all, find y'all wife and bring her back to the States, you know how long it takes to get a green card? I'm trying to figure out, do y'all know how long it takes to get a green card? So you'll probably be waiting a year or two to get a green card for her to even come over here. Yeah, so like, these passport bros, like, it ain't gonna work. It ain't gonna work. Stop taking the testimony of a few people who, went over there to live for a little while and found a woman, versus you passport bros think y'all gonna go over there for a week or two, find your powder puff woman and bring her home back to the States. It's just not gonna happen. We gotta deal with reality.
Hello YouTube, it's your boy the Passport Bro Wingman coming at you again with another YouTube video. And the title of this video is Y'all Crazy Passport Bros. Y'all live in a fantasy world. And I saw this video on another guy's channel, and I kind of wanted to make a commentary about it and kind of give my opinion. And basically there was a guy talking about Passport Bros, and he pretty much was saying that he doesn't think it's very realistic for men to date overseas. He brought up some things such as the green card process is going to be really, really hard. Also the infrequency of travel to these countries. And he's not the first one that kind of brought this up. I also saw another YouTuber, and I don't want to give this guy any attention because he's been on my page and several other people's page as well, saying similar things. So I kind of want to finally address that, nip that in the bud, and kind of give my feedback on this whole situation. First off, we can start with the infrequency situation, because he's not the only YouTuber that brought this up. Okay, so one of the things people say is, for example, let's say a guy makes $50,000 a year, and they're like, okay, so how many plane trips can you actually, buy, to go to like the Dominican Republic or Colombia and that kind of thing? A few things. First off, recently Spirit has done more flights to the Dominican Republic, also to Colombia, and you actually sometimes can find really, really good tickets, sometimes under $300. I've seen some maybe like $250, that kind of thing. And this is I live more in the like the Baltimore area, and for me, sometimes I found tickets around that price. Spirit, even though I'm not a fan of Spirit, but nevertheless, you can find tickets that are very cheap. And keep in mind, this is from somebody coming from the Northeast. Imagine if one of the Passport Bros lived like in the South. You live in Florida, you live in Texas, you live in that region. Traveling for you really is not going to be that difficult. In addition to that, the flights aren't that long. I think from to get to the Dominican Republic from like Florida, it might only be about maybe like 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours at most. In comparison to someone like myself coming from the Northeast, for me, I might spend about 6-7 hours of traveling, just because I have to make a stop in Florida before I go to like South America. But nevertheless, it's very doable, especially for someone that's in the southern region, to be able to travel to the Dominican Republic. So let's say like he makes $50,000 a year, and he can visit his, if he has a decent job, he can visit, let's say like he's not working remote. He can kind of travel there, at least, once a month, as long as he manages his money correctly. He has a decent job that's stable, and he has like some decent vacation time, that kind of thing. He has no problem doing that. But also keeping in mind that a lot of people actually work remote, so it's not, like myself, it's not really an issue for us to travel in when times we want to see our significant other. As long as we have a decent paying salary, it's not that big of a deal. Also keep in mind that even if somebody doesn't, let's say they don't have that much vacation time and they're only able to go there, let's say, 3 or 4 times throughout the year for like, a week or something like that, or even like a few couple days. Keep in mind that recently there was a study done, and I believe they said about 30% of men are not having sex at all. And also, in this time of the United States, there are more male virgins than there have ever been before. So you're talking about a percentage of men that go a whole 365 days without any attention for any female, any play for any female, in comparison to a guy. Let's say a guy goes there, like I said, 3-4 times out of the year, and he goes there even just for a weekend. You might say, oh, that's nothing. But consider him in comparison to these guys, of which 30% are not having sex at all. And we have the highest number of male virgins that we ever had in U.S. history. Think about that. You getting more play in those 3 times you're visiting the DR or Colombia than 30% of men. Think about that. So when you say it's really like extreme, I mean, is it really extreme when you do that comparison? And also keep in mind how many men in the United States are army men, or they're in the military, and they go away to, Iraq, and they don't see their wives or girlfriends for like several months. Many of them are like long distance relationship. Their relationship with their family and their significant others mostly through like Zoom, FaceTime, that kind of stuff. And they still maintain a decent marriage until they're able to get back and have a relationship. Plus, I remember when I was younger, I actually was in a long distance relationship when I was going to college. My girlfriend at the time, she went to a completely different college. We stayed in touch through the phone. At that time, internet wasn't that big, but we constantly had, every night we'd be on the phone talking. Whenever we get breaks, Thanksgiving, Christmas, we would hang out and, that kind of thing. So it's not, while long distance is not the best type of relationship, and of course, most people don't look to that. They would prefer to have it where they see their significant other, every day. But keep in mind that there are people in the United States that do that because of work and that kind of thing. They date people, from a distance. Also keep in mind there's people who do things like, there was a show on television, I forgot the name of it, where they go out and they hunt crabs. They go out there for about 3 months, and they go out and they get crabs for their business to sell. So they don't see their significant other, their children, for a whole 3 months. They come back and then they spend time with their wives. So, and even in the almost like biblical days, there used to be fishermen that would go out for months at sea and come back with their wives. So, this is something that's been happening since like Bible times. People have been doing this. But again, even for those that think this is extreme and not realistic or practical, keep in mind, as I said, 30% of men are not having sex. They get no play from any of the females. And then again, think about all the guys that might just take girls out on dates, but they're not getting anything in return. Like, not that, we should always be looking for something in return, but what I'm saying is that, when you think about the way they're being treated, they're getting curbed. Sometimes they're using guys, like they have one guy to help them fix their car, help them move stuff. Then they have another guy to blow their back out. Then there's another guy that helps them with their homework. They kind of treating us as a la carte, as a sense. You're getting treated like that for the whole 365 days versus those 3 or 4 weekends that you spend in the DR. There is a reason why, like Austin Holloman, many men say when they come back for these foreign countries, they almost want to start crying because they know when they get back, it's back to this matrix, this man-hating culture. And they are so happy to just deal with women who are truly feminine and not conditional femininity. So I want you to just keep that in mind, And then, of course, even the best scenario where, for example, in my situation, I'm in IT. So I get, my job right now is 100% remote. There's people who do customer service, 100% remote. There's all types of remote jobs out there now. I kind of encourage people to kind of look for them and try to find, even for teaching. I used to be, at one point I was a teacher. I actually saw there was a job where remotely you can just grade papers. And I think it was about $15-$20 an hour. So there's lots of little opportunities where you can work remotely, which would allow you to go overseas or go to the country of, your girlfriend, or even just there if you want to just, be there. Because I know some men don't just go just for the women. You might just want to go there to, have a change of scenery, and also keep in mind that the rent in these countries is very cheap. Like my girlfriend's rent, her rent is only about $300 a month in Colombia. And if you think about how much your rent is in the States, some rent, especially like in New York, you're talking about thousands of dollars. Think about somebody who's in New York who works remote, who could easily, instead of renting out an apartment, just fly down to the DR, Brazil, Peru, get an apartment there, and instead of paying rent in the States, pay rent there. Think about how much money they'll be saving. Now they have so much money to party, take out girls, that kind of thing. It's just an added benefit. You have plenty of people in the U.S. now living in Mexico City because the rent there is so cheap. And again, I didn't even mention the people who live alongside the southern border. They could easily have a foreign woman in Mexico dating her in Mexico City, that kind of thing, and take a bus or a train and go right back over the border, and they're back in the United States. So for them, I mean, them dating a foreign woman, that's not it's not unrealistic, and it's not impractical. I understand what they're saying. Some guy in Wisconsin or Washington who's like, severely far from the border, and he can't work remote. But again, when you compare those few weekends to how most men are getting treated 365 days a year, I mean, when you compare, is it really that extreme? So that answers that, and let me address this issue of the green card things. First off, I can tell that this guy doesn't watch many of our videos, or is not really within the culture, because a few things. One of the rules a lot of people say in general is you don't bring your woman back to the States. You don't bring her back to the States. You want to keep her there in your country, even if you have to, as I said before, maybe you live in Florida. Maybe if you're in Washington, Wisconsin, you need to move down to the southern states, and you work there, you live there, and then maybe you just fly there for a few months with your girl. You come back, you work. That kind of setup is a little bit better for some men versus them bringing them back to the States, just for the fact that they don't want the women necessarily polluted with some of the culture here. But even with that fear, let me say this to you. Once again, did you know that a marriage between an American man or Western man and a foreign woman, the success rate is 80%. 80%. Versus an American man with an American woman is only 52%. And who's to say that 52% is a happy marriage? And a lot of times in the States, you see that the women are wearing the pants in a relationship a lot, and the man just has to put up with her because he can't afford the divorce. So he just kind of stays with her. You even see couples sometimes sleeping in different beds. And also keep in mind, to protect American men or Canadian men, Western men that travel and marry women in these other countries, it's not like when she comes here to the States or the West, she automatically gets a green card. It doesn't work like that. She has to be married to you at least 2 years before she can even get a green card, before she can even work. So the Western man has to support her for those 2 years. And within those 2 years, at any point, if you are suspicious that she fraudulently married you, and you think she just came there for a green card, you can pretty much cancel the marriage, and you will not be responsible for her while she's there. And in fact, she'll be up for deportation at that point, because the marriage is no longer void, because you pretty much let them know that this was done in a fraudulent manner. The U.S. government did that to protect Western men. So you have that protection. So many times when women are defrauding American men and that kind of thing, they're not going to do it by going to your country. Generally, what they're going to do is they're going to try to get you to send the money there. They're dating some other guy, which is why some people kind of caution people on using dating apps and that kind of thing. That's generally how they're going to defraud you, is through like apps, and have you sending them money while they're dating some local guy there or some other guy there. Which is why I try to really push men and say, before you even think about proposing to a woman, make sure you have vetted her. I would say at a minimum, you at least been dating this woman anywhere from like 3 to 6 months, just to vet her background, make sure she has true intentions. It's always nice to have a second opinion. Maybe you have one of your boys kind of meet her and check her out, so that way, so that way if you're blinded and you're in love with her, at least your boy who doesn't really know her, he kind of like give you the heads up and kind of give you some feedback to take in consideration. Not to say that there's 100% way to make sure that you're never defrauded, but when you look at the 80% success rate, it's very low. And as I told you before, when she gets to your country, keep in mind that many of them they're not going to speak the English language that well. Plus, she's in a completely different culture. Her family's not going to be there. For her to step out with a complete stranger that she's not really in love with, it's a lot of risk associated with that. And most of them, that's not how they're going to defraud you or try to take advantage of you. Generally, they're going to try to do that within their own country. Not to say that it cannot happen. You have some kind of cold woman that's like a sleep, like as they would say, a sleeper cell. 2 years later or something, she wakes up and decides she wants to divorce you. But when you look at the statistics, it's very low. It's very low. Even amongst people that come across the border, when you look at those families, For example, a Mexican man and a Mexican woman that come across the border, their divorce rate, those families tend to be more stable than the ones in the United States, which means even when he comes over here, the Mexican man, and he's out just selling hot dogs, he still is getting a submission from his wife, and their family is still staying together. They still have their culture intact. So I just wanted to give you that in mind. They're just like a whole lot of variables into this, and a lot of the people who are not passport bros, they're just looking into the situation on the outside. They have no idea the situation. They just kind of have scoffed at it and said bah humbug, for the most part, so anyway, that's me addressing this whole situation. I'm gonna cut it at that. I don't want to keep this thing too long, but you guys, you let me know what you think in the comment section. Please leave your comments. Please subscribe to my channel. Hit the thumbs up button and hit the notification bell if you can. And until next time, this is the Passport Bro Wingman signing off.